Hello, all YouTube viewers. My name is Dennis Ramsey, world famous folk artist of Canada. I think the United States media is the biggest criminal because in the Manson murders, Manson never physically killed nobody. Charles Tex Watson did all the killings. Anyhows, the media made Charles Manson out to be the worst man on the planet. Yes, he was bad in ways. He was a criminal. But he was not a mass murderer or a serial killer. Anyhows, I think it's sad for Charles Manson. He was an orphan when he was young, and he became institutionalized. Back in the 1970s, Dennis Ramsey was an orphan. I spent 6 years in institutions in the 70s. Not because I was bad, it's because I needed a place to live. That's the same for Charles Manson. I think his crimes were not serious, car theft, forgery, pimping, but he was not the mass murderer, the boogeyman that the United States media made him out to be. Charles Tex Watson did most of the killings. If you want to point the finger at the bad guy, it would be Charles Tex Watson. If I told you to jump off a bridge, are you going to run out there and jump off the bridge? Of course you're not. These people that Charles Manson might have suggested something to were weak-minded individuals and stupid people. If somebody told you to go rob a bank and bring them back the money, you're not going to do that, are you? Of course you're not. Anyhows, I think the United States media blows things out of proportion. Yes, Charles Manson might have been a bit of an instigator, but let's face it, many of the followers were also instigators like Charles Tex Watson. But they all centered on Charles Manson, the United States media. I think they made a monster out of a criminal that was not a killer. Yes, he might have said some things that weren't nice. He might have said, well, why don't you do this or go out and do that? But those people didn't have to follow him or do that. Like I said before, if some criminal tells you to go rob a bank, you tell them to go F themselves. So you're not going to do it. Somebody says for you to jump off a bridge, you tell them go to hell. Anyhows, growing up as an orphan myself, I spent time in reform school, hospitals, group homes, foster homes. I spent 6 years in institutions in the 1970s, so I can relate to Charles Manson. Charles Manson had a dysfunctional upbringing. He became institutionalized, but he was not the monster that the United States media made him out to be. He might have been mentally sick. Anyhow, I suffer from the multi-personality disorder. I've been sick all my life. A lot of people in Kempville call me crazy, but I'm not crazy. I just had a mental sickness, that's all. Like people that are paranoid schizophrenic, or sociopath, or bipolar. I suffer from the multi-personality disorder. I'm a great folk artist. I paint folk art paintings, abstract art paintings. Anyhow, if you're ever in Kempville, Nova Scotia, Canada, please call me at 902-365-5044 to buy a folk art painting or an abstract art painting. You can visit me at 27 Canaan, C-A-N-A-A-N Avenue, Apartment B, Kempville, Nova Scotia, Canada. Postcode is B4N2A7. Yes, I do feel bad for all the victims of the family's crimes, but keep in mind that Charles Tex Watson delivered all the fatal blows. Yes, I know it was a combination of people saying it was a helter-skelter motive. That's false. That's bullshit. The prosecutor wanted to blame it on the Beatles or blame it on that, but that's not the case. These were people that were dysfunctional to begin with, and power of suggestion, they went out and committed these crimes. Like I said before, if I told you to go jump off a bridge, you're not going to do it. Think about it. Why would you want to die? And if somebody told you to go rob a bank, you're not going to do that, or go steal a car, you're going to tell them to F off. If you're strong-minded and half-sensible. Like I said before, Charles Manson might have been mentally sick. and he had a institutionalized life. And if anything, I feel sorry for the man because I can relate to him. Back in the 1970s, I spent 6 years in institutions. I was abused physically, mentally, and not fed at times. So I can relate to him. Um, did I run away from a couple of these institutions? Of course I did. And they brought me back and put me in the hole. Yeah, for 2 or 3 weeks. And that's no fun. But I can relate to Charles Manson. I understand where he's coming from. There's a lot of abuse in some institutions, like mental hospitals, reform school, group homes, and so on and so forth. But anyhow, the United States media is the biggest criminal because they blow things out of proportion. They made Charles Manson out to be worst man on the planet, which is false. Look at Richard Romanos, the Night Stalker that killed like 15 people. Look at Charles Ning that killed 10 people or so. Look at all the serial killers like Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy. These guys were bad, bad guys. Charles Manson was not the type of criminal in their league. These followers that followed Charles Manson were weak-minded individuals, but keep in mind, like I said before, if somebody told you to jump off a bridge, you're not going to do it. And if they told you to go steal a car or rob a bank, you're going to tell them to what? Fuck off. Fuck off. I'm not doing that. Think about it. Are you that stupid? If anything, the Charles Manson case shows how the United States media made a monster out of Mohill. A guy that, yeah, he might have been a criminal, but he was not the serial killer or the mass killer that everybody made him out to be, or the boogeyman. There's boogeyman out there a lot worse than Charles Manson, that are serial killers and mass killers. So keep that in mind also. Anyhow, I wanted to set the record straight or clarify this situation, but the United States media and the prosecution made Charles Manson out to be the worst man on the planet, and the media blown it out of proportion and made a mountain out of a molehill. And all I'm saying is sometimes the media spices things up for a good story, but how much truth is in it? You gotta ask that question. Anyhow, I'm a famous folk artist. I live in Canada. I'll include my address and phone number in this video. Please subscribe to all the Dennis Ramsay videos on the YouTube channel. Hopefully you'll like some of them. Anyhow, rest in peace, Charles Manson. Yes, you were mentally ill. Yes, you committed crimes, but you were not the mass killer or the serial killer that the media made you out to be. Like I said, power of suggestion. If you told somebody to jump off a bridge, you don't jump off the bridge. If you tell somebody to rob a bank, you don't rob the goddamn bank. Think about it. You'll go to prison. Are you stupid? If somebody tells you to rob a store, don't do it. And if Charles Manson did anything, he might have suggested these things. But these followers were weak-minded individuals. And like I said before, they didn't need to do what he said. And also Charles Tex Watson committed most of the fatal crimes. You should center on Charles Tex Watson, not Charles Manson. You take care, God bless. Peace out. World famous folk artist Dennis Ramsay of Kemptville, Nova Scotia, Canada. Have a good day and a better day tomorrow. Peace out.